Hey everybody! So our objective today is to look back at lines and surfaces and just kind of review what we know before we take a test and move on to another topic. So, first thing I'm going to tell you is there are lines and there are curves. If it's a line, I usually label it, right, as such. So I'll say that's a line, that's a line. If it's a curve, I go through and label those too. Curve, curve, definitely curve, maybe more than one curve, I'm not exactly sure. So if I told you these were lines and these were curves, how would you tell me what lines are if you had to tell somebody what a line was? How would you describe what curves are? Well, if it was me, I would talk about how lines are very straight. They go from one place to another in a straight line, a straight way. Whereas curves, they go from one place to another, but they don't take the straight path. Instead, they bend out, or they bend down, or they bend in and out and down to get from one place to another. So the difference between lines is they go straight there. Curves bend on the way. That was our first lesson. Can you recognize lines and curves? Some shapes are made up of lines and curves. So on your test today, or tomorrow, or the day after, whenever we get to it, you are going to be asked to find lines and find curves. I recommend you stay organized by using different colors or labeling. Don't just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll get some of the lines, but you might miss some of these little ones you might get some of the curves, right? So if it was me and I was doing lines, I would come through and I would say line, 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 line. 7 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if it was me again, even though I don't probably need to do this because there aren't that many, I would say there are 3 curves. So you're going to be asked to look at a figure made up of lines and curves, find the lines and curves. You might even be asked to draw some of the lines and curves. All right. There are also surfaces. Now, surfaces are a little bit different. Think of lines as being two-dimensional. They're long, they're wide, right? But they're not deep. These are 3D shapes or solid shapes, and they have surfaces. So a surface is a flat, like imagine the top or the side. You touch the table and it's flat, it's long, it's wide, right? This is called a face, okay? So some of these have lots of faces. Others of them don't have any faces. So you just have to look carefully to see if they have flat surfaces or if they have curved surfaces, like this cone is going to curve. And you know that because if you pushed it on a table, it would roll around. That rolling is key if something is curved. If you give something that's flat that same push, you're going to see a slide instead. And then another thing you can test is you can see if you can't stack these solid shapes. If you're able to stack them, that tells you that you have a solid face, or I should say a flat face on the top, and you have another flat face kind of on the bottom so that you're able to put things on top of each other. If you tried that on top of this pyramid, we know that it would tip over, right? Yeah, and that's called a stack. The last thing you probably want to do as you move through this chapter is just kind of refresh your memory as to what these shapes are called. I would call these 2 boxes. And these boxes do have names like cube and rectangular prism. I would call this a cone, I would call this a ball or a sphere, a cylinder, and a pyramid, right? You could call it a can, though, if you weren't sure. Pyramid. Yeah. And then the last lesson, oh, look at that, I hinted at it. Can you stack the shapes? Do they slide when you push them, or do they roll? And this kind of gets us to one of the review activities I'm going to have us do today. Take a peek. So the first thing you're going to do, and this is kind of more of a challenge, I have cut out all these shapes at the bottom of this page. Your job is going to be like a jigsaw puzzle. You have to put these shapes together so that they form a perfect square. You can rotate the shapes on Seesaw, but you're not really allowed to switch the sizes of the shapes, if that makes sense. That should be a fun one for you. Right away, I see a couple shapes that go together real nice. Look at that. Click, but I have to use all of these, so you have to do a little bit more thinking than just that. So that's kind of a fun one for you. Put on your thinking cap and try to make a square. The next one that you might do with me is we might practice some of this vocabulary together and talk about lines and curves, right? So just using the vocabulary, the words that have to do with the chapter we worked on. And then I'll give you this activity probably to do around your house. I'll ask you to maybe draw some of these figures or take a picture of some of these objects that might be around. So this first one says, draw a figure that has 5 lines and 3 curves. So I need 5 lines and exactly 3 curves. All right, here I go. Curve number 1. Curve number 2. Curve number 3. Okay, and then I'm going to do the lines here. I need 5 lines, so let's go here, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, what is it? I don't know. It doesn't say it has to be anything. It just says, in your box, can you please draw something that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, and can you draw something that has 1, 2, 3 curves? Now, you might get bonus points if it actually looks like anything. Like, I'm not even sure. Kind of looks like a toilet, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, do your best to read the description and draw these items or objects. On the next slides, I think I have a couple math games for you to try out. Good luck, everybody. Bye now.